Hi everyone, Nick here from Firefly Studios. We are now back from PAX East 2020 and getting stuck into development of Stronghold Warlords. Today we're going to be answering 10 of your most upvoted, requested and featured comments and questions about the game. To do that, I've got senior programmer Matt Smith and senior producer Paul Harris. How are we doing, gentlemen?
Yeah,
healthy?
Not bad. Get in there.
Yeah, good. So yeah, we're going to go through 10 of your most requested, featured comments and questions. And yeah, let's just jump straight into it. So to begin, before we get onto the community questions, obviously we are now post-PAX East with 3 months into development in 2020, which is when the game is coming out. So let's just have a sort of general discussion about where we're at in terms of production, where we're at in terms of development, and what the kind of state of play is with things. So Paul, firstly, where are we right now in terms of what's being produced in the game, what kind of core elements are being designed and implemented?
So as you mentioned, a couple of weeks ago we did PAX East, which was...
Was that a couple of weeks ago? God, that's gone by quick.
And so that was great because it's been about 6 months since we showed the game in public. We've made obviously a lot of changes since then. And feedback from the show was great. We had a lot of Stronghold fans there and we had a lot of RTS fans. And the response from everyone was really, really good.
Yeah, like from people who had only played sort of the first Stronghold game, all the way through to people who had only played Crusader 2, and then people who had played every single entry.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of them.
There was one guy who was like, oh, each Stronghold game is unique in various different ways, and he kind of went through each title, and I was like, wow, that's knowledge.
It's really interesting at the shows, because you get people that what their first Stronghold game was often varies. So
and it sets their expectations,
But it's great for us, because we get to talk to people about that, and we understand, kind of where they're coming from. But but it does influence, the games as a result.
Yeah, and in terms of feedback from them, did anything stand out to you specifically?
Just that, a lot of the feedback that we'd got from previous shows, clearly, we had implemented a lot of that in this build, and it was clear that those changes were really, had worked exactly as we intended. So, the things that people were picking up on in previous demos, people weren't mentioning them in this demo.
No.
Which is often the way it is, that people notice, what you want is people not to notice things in the game, because that means that it probably works correctly.
Yeah. It's either been fixed or added.
That's when people tend to mention
stuff. And this demo was a hell of a lot more fully featured than the PAX West demo.
It was essentially a modified version of an actual campaign mission. So it was a proper mission where you've got to build your economy, you've got to build an army, you've got to use warlords, very important in how we've designed the campaign is so that you have to use the warlords. They're fully designed into the game. So
moving on to kind of the development side of things, now that we're post-show, what are we going to be looking at going forward in terms of getting those core parts of the game complete and making it into an actual game?
Actual game. It's now just tweaking, polishing. So, for example, the new Warlords System, right now working on getting that functioning in multiplayer, making it all nice and network safe, so it'll go over the internet.
Because we're self-publishing, we're going to take a hell of a lot of time to polish and get various elements. And you spend certain time away from a certain element of the game, right? And then you look back at it and you go, actually, this doesn't work so well, or this could do with an extra layer of polish and that kind of stuff. So,
but the key thing is that we're playing the campaign. So as Matt says, with QA are on it. They're testing the campaign. So the campaign's got it's got the maps in there now. It's got the mission structures. There's a few bugs we need to fix, but that's fine. There's all the voice lines are in there in English anyhow. We still need to record the the other languages. So there's lots of stuff that needs testing, but it's great because it means that a lot of the gameplay is being refined as we go now, because it's really getting down to what's fun? Is this fun? No. Okay, how can we change it so it's more fun?
The other exciting thing for me at the moment is I'm probably not allowed to talk about specifics yet, but Simon's been, Simon Bradbury has been coming to me.
I feel like if people watch these videos, they know who Simon is.
Yeah, he probably knows who Simon is, yes. But yeah, he's been coming to me with sort of a few requests for specific things for certain missions that we maybe have been doing in previous games. Some interesting
some
new
really
elements.
ideas, which will be unique to this Stronghold title.
Yeah.
And you get to tell him whether those things would break the entire game.
Matt's face when he comes over is quite fearful.
Yeah, there's usually a bit of back and forth, but we
But I guess like when you're actually creating the missions for the campaign, that's when you start to actually use the tools and you start to go, oh, I've got this idea for this thing, could we make this work, kind of thing. And then sometimes the answer is yes and other times no. But
I think it's when it's a cool idea, I guess it's more exciting. It's one of those things, it's a challenge, but it'll be worth it. So.
Yeah, I mean, from the programming side, the scaffolding is all there, and now we're actually getting on with
the problem with the Stronghold game is essentially you have to build the whole simulation. Everything needs to be working in order for you to then build the missions and do multiplayer and everything.
Test.
So it's not like, it takes a long time to get the game playable until you can play a proper Stronghold game. But then at that point, you're just playing Stronghold from that point on.
Right, sure. Cool, so it feels like we are on track. Just before we move on, obviously, as I said at the start of the video, we've collected nearly 100 questions from people. We will be featuring those in a future video, possibly with Matt. Depends if he's up for it or not. But we're going to be answering those. Sorry, Paul. We're going to be answering those in the future video. And today we're just going to be featuring the 10, biggest questions, most featured, most upvoted, most liked, most seen across various platforms, and giving those a bit more sort of, a deep dive in terms of, discussion of those things, and not just being like yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, joke question. So without further ado, let's get into the questions. So first up, we have H06org with something that our community have been asking about a whole bunch during development, which we've addressed, but can't hurt to go over it again. Will there be graphical improvements between now and the final version?
It's a good question. Obviously, we've had quite a lot of graphical improvements up until this point. We still are going to make more, for sure. Anytime we spot something that we're not totally happy with, or anytime we see, this is something that the fans are picking up on, which we've done a lot so far.
It feels like at the moment, it's a lot about sort of the smaller details, right?
Yeah.
So we've removed pre-alpha from a lot of our videos because the overall graphical style is now pretty set.
I mean, the big changes happened last year, and I know a couple of the guys on the Discord sort of did correctly. I can't remember your names, you know who you are, nailed what the changes were. We made changes to sort of the lighting system, adding what we call sort of post-process effects to sort of change the whole look of the game. So we've done changes sort of in the technical side of the visuals. We've also changed the models.
A whole bunch of stuff, I think it was the tribesmen have been changed quite a lot because we got some comments from Vietnamese fans who quite rightly were saying, hey, have you thought about adding these kind of things? And obviously fire as well, grass, there are loads of specific things we've looked at and tweaked along the way.
And ahead of PAX, there's quite a few of the buildings. We finally kind of got some final artwork in for that. Like a lot of the weapons workshops are looking really nice. Once they open up now, there's a lot more detail inside the buildings, which is what we're adding at the moment. And a lot of that is also we're adding more animations based off feedback we've got in the past.
So a lot of it falls into the camp of sort of stuff that was planned anyway, but that we just obviously hadn't got around to yet because we're showing a game that's still in development.
Although conversely, I think, and this is why I can't give definitive answers on what's yet to come, because one of the nice things of us being sort of a small team and a small company is at some point somebody go, do you know what, I'm not happy. It was the case with the fires. We said that could definitely use some improvement. It wasn't necessarily scheduled to be worked on at that point, but then somebody goes, okay, I've got an idea, let me try that out. And with a bit of back and forth, we sort of get it sorted.
You don't have to just sneak it in like in other companies. You can actually have a conversation out loud about it.
But sometimes, they can crop out of nowhere.
It is challenging though, because sometimes player feedback usually comes in sort of two forms. Either it's a very sort of specific thing, which you can look at and go, okay, cool, if that's possible to fix it, or if it makes sense to fix it in terms of the design, we can do that. Or it's a more general comment, which is sometimes hard to drill down into what people actually mean and what they would want as a replacement. So it's quite a task, it's not a task of like, you see some feedback, you can address it immediately. There's a whole grey area there, really.
Yeah.
But we've been pretty good so far at addressing that, and obviously we'll continue to do that as we sort of move towards release. And obviously we're not at the polish stage, the overall polish stage yet, right? Because once you've got the game sort of finished, you can look at the whole thing a bit more objectively and go, these things don't work in terms of design, that bit needs a little bit more polish, etc., right?
There's always that extra layer that goes on at the end. Just from just playing it, people just notice little things and just correct things that need to be corrected, and just things that could be enhanced that are quite easy to do actually. But which is why at the end they can go in. So it doesn't affect gameplay, so it's quite straightforward.
Or in the case of the original Stronghold, when fire was added 1 week before the game shipped. Won't be doing that.
Always amazed by that one.
Luckily, we've already got fire in. So.
Well, that's true. It looks great.
What were you saying? Sorry, imagine
Stronghold without fire.
Well, exactly. Imagine the whole series. Yeah, exactly. Imagine the whole series without fire. It would be very strange. But yes, we hope you feel satisfied by that answer to your question, H06org. And yes, expect new sort of graphical changes as we move towards release. So next up, we have Filthy Savuel, who asks, will there be Koreans in the game?
So the way the game works is that we haven't necessarily got individual factions in the game. It's more like Crusader, so there's a mixture of troops that come from different regions. So in terms of the historical time periods and countries that we follow, that's mainly in the campaigns. So we've got like China, Vietnam, Japan. So historical events from that time. Yeah,
kind of like 300. I think it's like 300 BC all the way through to like the 1600s in terms of the Japanese, Mongolian stuff.
Yeah. So we've taken there's some of the most interesting elements from those time periods.
Like fire oxen?
Well, fire oxen are always popular. And we've incorporated them into the game, and including, we have actually got something that's inspired from research that we did in Korea, which is the fire arrow cart.
Yep,
which I think is going to be very popular. Really nice, looks great, thanks to Matt. And
that's both a defensive siege weapon and a unit that you can use as well, isn't it? There's two different versions of that.
Yes,
yeah. So you can place them. Exactly. There's like a kind of an arrow turret as well as there's a mobile arrow.
Although I like the fact that the cart version is a little bit more. It's not quite as structurally sound as the turret.
Unstable, isn't it? I know.
Yes, unstable.
It looks like
one is bolted to a castle and the other is not.
Yes, one is like it's a small cart, wooden cart. With gunpowder and explosives on it.
You don't envy the engineer at the back there, do you?
No.
I do love the way that he pulls away and plugs his ears when he does it.
Great. Yeah,
Safety first. Safety first.
Yeah. So to be absolutely clear, it's not like Legends where you would pick a bunch of different factions and units from those factions. It's Crusader where everyone has access to all 16 units, all 10 pieces of siege equipment at all times, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. We feel like that kind of. That's always worked really well for us, and I think it makes sense in Strong Warlords.
Yeah. And for a team of about 10 people, that's like 26 units effectively is pushing the what we're sort of capable of. So maybe potentially if Warlords absolutely smashes it, we could add Korea in a possible sequel. But unfortunately, Korean inspiration in Strong Warlords, but no units. So next up, we have Eleanor, who's asking a Warlord-specific question. How many different Warlords can we expect in the game at launch?
So we are working on 8 at the moment. They're all based, in case anybody doesn't know how Warlords work, so they're all based off, they've all got their own personalities. Yeah. And so we give them an animal which is appropriate to their trait.
Animals that we could sort of identify as strong theme or personality with. I mean, the three that we've had in the demos so far, we had the turtle, who's sort of very focused on defense.
Yeah, very tanky.
Very tanky. He'll, try and help stave off the enemy for you or with you.
So if he were between you and the enemy AI in a map, that he would be very useful in that scenario.
Yeah. And he loves walls. He loves walls. That's his thing. But we have then like the ox, the one which, as again, the idea is a work animal. He's big on resources. You'll be able to hit him up to send you some stone or some wood or whatever you need. Trying to supplement your own production. And And then we have the dragon, who's actually, dragons in mythology, they're quite vicious, quite ferocious, but also quite, wise, and there's a sort of duality
almost
there.
regal.
Nice, regal.
We had,
nice.
as you know, we had the dragon in the at PAX, and that went down really well. People loved using, for him to be able to launch attacks at the enemy. He in the demo he supplied the player with rocket launchers, which people loved using those.
And that's one key thing about the Warlords system as well, isn't it? The ability to actually have the Warlords launch attacks for you, while you kind of just sit back if you want to.
And it was great because people were sending in the dragon's attack first, and then following up with their army. So they were using it as a kind of initial softener, get rid of troops around the front of the castle, get them draw their fire from the enemy. And then they would follow him with their troops, which is exactly what we want to see. We want to see different tactics being used with Warlords. And the great thing, what I love about the Warlords is that, as Matt said, that you've got like say the Ox Warlord, right? Resources. So maybe you want to use. He's super useful at the start to get your economy going, but then other Warlords are going to be more useful later on. But then, do you try and capture those ones, say the dragon, early to make sure that you have them saved up for later on? And then, obviously, but then I might, if you own the dragon, I might want to try and take him off you. So that power struggle is really what we're trying to achieve.
And I suppose they're different in terms of their usefulness depending on whether you're playing a specific skirmish map or a specific mission, or whether you're doing the economic campaign.
It's quite an interesting challenge design-wise. Is like you say, we'll have them in very sort of, if you like, curated positions in campaign maps. Like this mission is all about getting that guy on your side so you can do this. Conversely, they will be there in skirmish and multiplayer maps, and maybe that'll be random. Maybe you'll be able to set that up, but they'll factor in. And the question is how to make them work in both situations equally effectively. So, but we think we've
it's a challenge, but it's a great system.
So 8 slightly different, slightly unique, all in their own different way. Warlords at launch, and then potentially new Warlords post-launch. It could be done.
It's the system's been designed so that it would be possible to add more in if we felt that it's something we wanted to do.
And there are a lot of different animals out there.
There are a lot of different animals, not just limited to the Chinese zodiac.
Which animal would you like to see, Matt?
I quite like monkeys.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was thinking
cheeky,
hedgehog.
Hedgehog.
Spiky.
The hedgehog warlord. Oh yeah, I like that. Yeah, you'd have to have some unique kind of castle defences and traps.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, it's true. Could be a traps kind of.
Cool. This is a live design session we have here.
What'd the monkey do?
TBD.
I thought it stood for something.
Yeah, I thought it was a tropical disease or something.
No, to be determined.
Good.
Which means I haven't thought it through. Beyond the monkeys are quite funny.
They are funny, yeah.
You heard it here first. Monkeys are quite funny. Moving on to Kiyonashi, who asks, will there be more complicated food production chains in the game?
So, not necessarily more complicated, but we're currently testing a system where rather than having like one food control, you can essentially set each food differently. Right. So, which is a bit of a change for Stronghold, but it'll be a nice change for people that like to micromanage their food a bit more. Yeah. But we've got plenty of other complicated production chains. So we've got gunpowder coming into the game. So that's a 3-stage process. Obviously, there's the weapons workshops, which are always a multi-stage process. Clothing we've got. So silkworms, or cocoons that get turned into thread that get turned into clothes. Mm-hmm. So there's still classic 3-stage systems that you'd expect in a Stronghold game, but food is slightly different.
And then obviously other mechanics, other sim mechanics going on, not just fear factor, like other things of the game that we've added.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have the diplomacy will be powered by your buildings this time
Spirit
around.
As well.
Spirit, yes. Through sort of placing temples, and so. Yes, there'll be plenty of buildings to put in your village and plenty of things to be keeping track of.
Plenty of stuff to micromanage.
Yeah, for sure.
So next up we have Jergy, who's actually asking a marketing question. So if you'll just excuse us.
Yeah, no, it's probably better this way
Just-
around.
do you wanna-
We're
do you want-
moving.
Yeah, do you want to swap around?
No.
Yep. Is that better? Oh my God, there's so much pressure over
All
there.
right, how do you do this? Right. Hi, Nick. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Will there be a Stronghold Warlords demo?
There already is a Stronghold Warlords demo. We've had a Discord metagame obviously running for several months now. Essentially, the people that have won that stage of that metagame will be gaining access to our PAX East demo. Which obviously we're going to try and collect feedback from, and you know, whether that's through like a form or just informally through the Discord, we're going to be doing that and improving on it in that way. In terms of when there will be whether there will be a demo version of Stronghold Warlords going forward in the sort of traditional sense, we definitely like to do a beta at some point. I think all of us here would probably like to do that, both in terms of production, in terms of, you know, me on the marketing side. I think it'd be great. What that will be, I don't entirely know whether it would be purely multiplayer focused or whether it would be another sort of like vertical slice demo like we've had in the example of PAX East. But we definitely like to do something like that further down the line. And yeah, people can just join the Discord to find out more about that. That's where we're going to be posting sort of, you know, the most information about that. So hopefully the answer is yes. Paul, I don't know if you've got any thoughts or input?
I know there's a lot of people I spoke to at PAX were asking about beta.
Yeah.
So it's it is a valuable tool for us. So ideally, as long as we've got time, we can put together a beta and gather final feedback.
Yeah, I think it's just about like having a game that having a demo that is sufficiently far enough along that we can get feedback from it that is valuable to us, but not so far that nothing can be changed anymore. I don't know if you have any.
Well, I mean,
thoughts
yes.
I know you are the marketing person now.
Well, yes.
You're allowed to contribute.
Whichever knows. No, we obviously we wanted to do something like this, but I think the turning point was as we got closer to PAX and the demo started to become more fully formed, we realised, oh wait, this is a really cool little slice of the game, and this is actually definitely something we can put out there for people to try. So I think part of it will come down to whether we can nail again that little slice of the game.
But I think it's one of those things. When we're developing the game, obviously we're looking at it every day, and we you get to a point where you can somehow get used to things, or you don't see things anymore. So I think one great thing about a beta is that players see things, like especially that new user experience is very much that feedback you get from a beta is really useful, just because we don't see some things. We're so used to looking at the game now.
Yeah. Cool. So we I'll take that. Thank you very much. Cool. So there you have it. Hopefully, you'll join the Discord and find out more. Next up, we have a specific question that I'm hoping we can expand on a little. This is coming from FreeRain121. Shout out FreeRain121, asking, will there be castle wall hoardings like in previous Stronghold games?
Do you want to answer this one, Matt?
I mean, the short answer is yes. We will have quite a variety of sort of wall-based defences. We'll have the hoardings. We're going to have turrets, so arrow turrets and various other ones. I'm not sure what's been revealed yet.
The Hwatcher, the fire arrow turret we've got now.
That's right. Quite a lot of different
Barricades outside the castle as well.
Yeah.
This is tasty. I can't remember all of them.
My mind is just a bullet point list of all the features in the game.
Got the gunpowder stashes, which are cool. So you can place them outside the castle. Enemies walk on them, a bit like landmines.
Yeah, nasty surprise.
Are we allowed to mention trails?
We've kind of mentioned trails before in passing. We haven't actually sort of shown them yet. But yes, that is another juicy piece of information.
That'd be a cool review. I love the gunpowder trails. They're great.
Yeah. So lots of different ways to sort of customize your defenses, and both in terms of attacking the forces and actually sort of like shoring up your walls essentially. Yes, hoardings confirmed. Lots more other stuff to be revealed. Stay tuned on Firefly Studios YouTube for more of that.
I will say, quick shout out to the other senior programmer, Tony, who's done a lot of work on getting the walls right this time. And that's a big part of why we've been able to sort of expand on them so much.
So moving on to a slightly more frivolous part of the game, we've got Sir Doom Estos asking, will the game have fourth wall breaking moments or Easter eggs in general?
Well, I mean, we've been a fan of them before. We've had them in the old games. Maybe we'll have them in the new games. I feel like if we confirm anything, then they stop being Easter eggs.
You can't pre-announce Easter eggs, right?
No.
They're things to be found after.
Yeah, I think otherwise then it's just a feature.
Yeah.
I think.
Secret feature.
Secret feature.
So will there be secret features in the game then?
Yes, there will be secret features.
Oh.
No. Oh wait, is that too much?
I don't know.
All right.
No, that's just enough.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Yeah. I think we're confirming there might be.
I believe the answer to the question is yes. Asterisk. Yeah.
There you have it. Definitive answer. So now we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. We've got a question from Sataniel asking, will Warlords have Asian mythology DLC?
At the moment, obviously we're making the full game. I think there is potential for DLC if the game does well. Yeah. I'm not sure if we'd necessarily go down the mythological routes, but there's loads of potential in terms of other characters from the time that we're exploring. Yeah. Really strong characters that did interesting things that with personalities that would really work in Warlords. So yeah.
And what we were talking about earlier in terms of like new Warlord archetypes and obviously like maps and stuff like that.
And we added in Crusader 2, we added DLC afterwards. We could see ways that we could extend the game through DLC that would benefit the game. And I think players responded very well.
We also mixed it with free updates as well, which is key, right? Like, so if we ever were to do DLC for Warlords, it would be mixed in with free gameplay updates.
I think that's important. I think it's up to player to choose whether they want the DLC. We're not forcing it on them, but the free updates are a way of thanking the players. That don't want to buy the DLC.
Yeah, and just doing little things as well, like making maps, that are available in DLC available to everyone, so it doesn't like sort of fracture the audience in any weird way.
Yeah, no, exactly. Especially for multiplayer, as you say, we gave content so that it didn't break people's multiplayer games. They didn't stop them playing multiplayer matches against people that had the DLC. You could, I think, in Crusader 2, you could play technically against the enemy, the DLC enemies. You just couldn't choose them yourself. You didn't own them, which is fair. I think most people saw that as fair.
Yeah. I think, as you mentioned before, with us being self-publishing, it means that we've got the luxury of being able to, see what works, see what players are responding to, and give them more of what they want, without having to have everything planned years and years in advance.
Yeah. So the answer is maybe. Ask us again after launch, maybe. So next up we have Davros94 asking us, will there be any crossover between Warlords and the rest of the Stronghold saga?
Our main, obviously we're concentrating on Warlords is our, it's a new entry into the series. It's got different things in it.
In the same way that Crusader took it to the Middle East and featured Richard and Saladin, in the same way that Legends took it into the sort of mythical realm and featured Arthur and all the other characters.
Yeah, so there's obviously this core gameplay as as with all Stronghold games is very similar, which is what players would expect anyhow. Yeah. But at the moment it's just about the Asian warlords of that time
and kind of making the most of those characters. And obviously you still got like classic units returning like Ladderman. We've got our own version of the Scribe in this game, Fear Factor. So there are a lot of shared elements between I like the Stronghold Saga, by the way. I like that way of describing it. But not in terms of the characters themselves and the narrative, it's going to be quite distinct.
But I do love the idea of a crossover. Yeah. But it's one of those things. At the moment, we're concentrating on just Warlords.
When the Stronghold cinematic universe is ready to be launched, I'll let you know.
Nice.
Next up, we have Werner112 asking, how can a player steal a Warlord from another player? I guess this is a question for you, Matt.
Yeah, this is well timed because it's actually something we're very much actively working on right now. So in broad strokes, we've brought in this concept of influence that you'll have over the different warlords, and it'll be based off the diplomacy points you can get. But essentially, it'll almost be sort of like like a bidding war almost. So to see who can get the most influence over, say, the Ox, and then win his favour, and then they'll have control through that way. But also at the same time, we still want military occupation to be an option. And, march over there,
Kill the bodyguards.
take
out
on
the
the
wall.
keep, take the guy out, the classic Stronghold fashion.
To kind of give you like a lot of different options in terms of like, if you take over a warlord, you probably want to station some troops there just in case. You want to build up like a bank of diplomacy points so that you can outbid people. And obviously as a match progresses, the importance of various warlords will change depending on what your economy's doing, et cetera, et cetera.
We really want to be able to have it so that the guy who's just, is military focused and building up his army and marching off in conquest can be matched against the guy who's the Machiavellian puppet master, and actually have those two play styles sort of come to blows and work alongside each other.
I think we're going to change the Warlords marketing tagline to just become a Machiavellian puppet master.
You got to do the puppet master hands.
Yeah, because we want Warlords to change hands through the game, through a game. Yeah. So it's important that there's different options depending on what position in the game a player is. They might not be have a great army that they can just waste on going to try and get a warlord, but they might be focused on diplomacy. So it's just nice to have those options, and players can pick and choose which way they want to do it during the game, really.
Yeah. And we'll be doing a video, sort of a deep dive on the Warlords system later on in the year, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so that about wraps it up. That was 10 of your most frequently asked questions about the game. As I said earlier in the video, we've got 100 in the back that we are going to be looking at answering in future videos. So if we haven't addressed your concerns today, please do stay tuned, as we'll be likely answering those in a rapid fire format going forward. I'd like to thank Matt and Paul for answering some of the most pressing questions from the community and generally sort of going into a little bit more depth about each of the issues. Did you enjoy yourselves today, guys?
Yeah, it was good. Good questions from the community. I think we're at a nice stage of development now where, we're getting towards the end. So, really good to be able to talk about it.
Now, if you do like the look of Stronghold Warlords, make sure you give us a wish list on Steam. If you've been swayed by the elegant developers sat next to me here today, it means a huge difference to an indie studio like us, and it will give you a notification of when the game's available and of any launch discounts that are available at launch. Finally, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you give us a like and subscribe here on Firefly Studios for more Stronghold Warlords and Romans Age of Caesar goodness every week. I thought you were going to do it with me.
Oh, I was
doing that. I was telling you. Oh, never mind.